You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, bar, arcade, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
Today on the Game Marks podcast, we play King of Colosseum Red, as requested by Megamark Brett Vann. Will this PS2 game from 2002 stand the test of time? Will we play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
All of this plus gaming news, GMP64 and Clash at the feast. Plug in and put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now. And now, the Game Marks.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash. And today we're playing King of Colosseum Red. Thank you to Brett Vann on our Patreon page, the Megamark, for choosing this one.
I'm very excited about this one. And as always, we love to hear from you. So please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen. And always join in on the conversation on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod and at our Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. John.
Hi, George.
As we record this episode, I am literally sitting less than 2 feet away from you. 3 feet away from you.
6 feet. 6 feet. Just
we're
kidding.
both vaccinated.
Yeah, we're good. George is in my kitchen right now.
Yeah.
We had a nice meal.
It's great.
Broke some bread, talked about some video games.
I hate that term.
I hate it too, but I had to use it.
Broke bread. I hate that.
We finally signed some items. So if you were a Gamebury participant and got the big prize,
no, definitely no delays there.
They're finally coming out to you. Sorry guys, there was kind of like a pandemic in the way.
Yeah, it was just a little, maybe you heard of it.
Yeah. But
hey, last week was I don't know how to describe last week's episode. It was
a doozy.
Yeah, it was a
dud?
doozy. We played Simpsons Wrestling, and we both loved it.
We loved it so much, we gave it the old 3, 2, 1 future endeavor.
Yeah.
That's how much we loved it.
Yeah,
go back and listen to that if you haven't, if you're not familiar with Simpsons Wrestling. Or just, you know what, I think you should go watch our Clash at the Feast to get the real feel for it. So check that out on YouTube, because you'll see what this game, not what this game was, what this game wasn't.
Or just get the full experience and play it yourself. But John, tell us what's happening on Patreon this week.
On Patreon this week, listen, if you get sick of hearing our ads on the show, listen, we got to pay the bills. Head on over to Patreon, where you can get the ad-free show. It's sometimes, I'm going to start posting them a little earlier, maybe on Sunday, so you can get the first experience. These lovely show notes that we are looking at right now, these come out on Tuesday. Also, on Tuesday night, our brand new show debuted last week, GMP Game Over, where we play WWF No Mercy. It is the sister show of GMP64. Future Endeavored comes out on Wednesday, where last week I played WWF King of the Ring, and this week coming up, I don't know how you Future Endeavored this one. You're playing Day of Reckoning for the GameCube, and then of course on Friday, Clash and Burn.
That's absolutely right, John. I've been having a lot of fun with this Future Endeavored series that we've been doing on Patreon. It's nice to go back and visit the games that we played over the course of the last year plus, and going back to the first couple episodes, and I think I remember why I Future Endeavored Day of Reckoning, but we'll see. We'll see if the rating stands true. But it's time to talk about the streamer spotlight for the month of May. The streamer spotlight for May is twitch.tv/The Salzer Effect. He literally covers everything to do with wrestling. He covers AEW, he covers WWE, he covers some indie stuff, he does build-alongs with Legos, he literally just talks about it all and plays it all, and he's a great guy, so make sure to go and support him at twitch.tv/The Salzer Effect. Alright, John, let's talk about last week's episode of GMP64, hot off the heels of Survivor Series. It was a pretty banger of an episode, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, you know, right off Survivor Series, Triple H won the title. Johnny Clash might have been looking for a new faction to join.
I have no words about that.
I'm going to put it over again like I do every week. If you are someone, at least in our age realm, and you played No Mercy growing up, or even Revenge, or even World Tour, any of them, WrestleMania 2000, and you want to relive the Attitude Era with the Game Marks podcast, do so every Thursday night on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast, where we play through with our own rosters, and we have monthly pay-per-views live on Twitch.
Oh, yeah, but John, I've had quite an interesting week for gaming news. Why don't you take us through that?
All right, let's go.
Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at VGFgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style.
E3 2021 has announced that a slew of new companies has been confirmed as participants in this year's all-virtual event. Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco Entertainment, Xseed Games, Marvelous USA, Gearbox Entertainment, Freedom Games, Devious Eye Entertainment, Turtle Beach, Verizon, and Binge.com are all set to have reveals and make announcements at E3 2021, which takes place online from June 12th through June 15th. And the Game Marks podcast will have all of your E3 coverage as it happens. Resident Evil Village developer and publisher Capcom had released one final trailer, its launch trailer, right before the highly anticipated video game released last week on May 7th. The trailer itself is relatively short and largely includes characters and environments we have seen before in previous trailers, but it is still super creepy. This is Resident Evil after all. Now, Nintendo Switch owners looking to learn about software development will have a new tool to do so when Game Builder Garage releases on June 11th. Revealed by Nintendo on Twitter, the game will offer basic tools that allow players to learn about basic video game design. There will be guided lessons that teach players how to create 7 different games in total, but players will also have the option to create their own masterpieces in free programming mode. Those games can be shared with others via code. The title will retail for about $29.99 and will release digitally and physically. And that's all the gaming news we have this week. Check back next week.
So pretty much what I learned from gaming news this week is that you and I are going to spend $30 and we're going to learn to make Nintendo Switch games.
That's literally what I was thinking, but I did watch the trailer. It does look very simplistic, which you would have to understand. Yeah, we don't know.
Baby steps, steps, John.
We're just really trying to get to the point where we can make our own WrestleMania, the arcade game.
Pretty much. But it's just like me and John doing all of the motion capture. Bob is an unlockable character from
the bonsai drop
from the road to FWF Live.
I think I remember seeing something like this, but it's for kids, and it was on Shark Tank a few years ago. Kind of like a handheld. Yeah, like they just go in and they can make their own games. I mean, this is the future, teaching kids programming, and this is huge right now.
I was going to say, this is it's a gateway for, people who have always been interested in game development, but really don't know how to do the programming language and kind of want a nice, simple user interface to work with to make their own games. You know what? I'm going to give it a shot. We'll just see what we can come up with, and who knows? Maybe we'll have a very bare bones GMP video game in the future.
I don't have a Switch, so let me know how it goes. Take it off the company card.
I'll just bring it. I'll just bring it over here. We'll mess around.
Why not? All right, but are you ready for our favorite segment, the question of the week?
Let's do it.
Hey yo, Game Marks. You know who I am, and I'm here to tell you about our pro wrestling tees and TeePublic stores. Now let me tell you something, Game Marks. Not only do we have the most radical shirts over at Pro Wrestling Tees, we also have a TeePublic store with even more designs, dude. So head on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod and TeePublic.com/user/GameMarksPod, because when you're GMP for life.
All right, so the question of the week is a weekly segment where you ask us a question and then we answer it, and then we propose the same question to all of you, and you let us know your responses on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Now, last week's question was, now that Retromania has been released, who is your number one most wanted DLC character that is not signed to WWE or AEW? And we got a lot of answers. And I gotta be honest with you, I went right to like indie. Like, I didn't even consider New Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a couple people make recommendations of a few New Japan people, and I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that. I wish I would have come up with that, but we had everybody. So Virtual Suplex says Davey Boy Smith Jr. The Turnbuckle says the Nasty Boys. Gambino62 says Okada. K Show Big says Sammy Callahan. And yeah, John, why don't you go through them?
Let's rapid fire these. Bunkhouse Buck or Nothing, Smart, Mark Sterling, the Steiner Brothers, Raven, Will Ospreay, Heath Miller, Danhausen. Danhausen actually came up quite a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Justin
Gotta
Leeper,
love that Danhausen.
Justin Leeper, friend of the pod, says, I would love to see Perry Saturn make it into a game, either this or Virtual Basement's The Wrestling Code. Saturn is an all-time favorite with cool look and awesome moveset, and the man could probably use a win after some tough years. And then he actually sent us a picture that he snagged at a convention or something of Saturn and Raven, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Now, you guys all know my love for Perry Saturn. After I read this question from Justin Leeper, I don't know if I even told you this yet, George, I had a dream about Perry Saturn that night. So you're here in my house. I just pointed out how it's very noisy upstairs because we're in a basement. And
Yeah.
I hear the guy upstairs walking at 3 a.m, and it wakes me up every morning. So in my dream, I was hearing that, but it was Perry Saturn who lived in my basement.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Perry Saturn was your landlord.
No,
I was going to be like, holy crap.
Perry Saturn lived in my basement. I never saw him, but in my dream, Perry Saturn lived in my basement. Like, I knew it.
You just knew.
And he got up to get ice from the fridge, and he was making so much noise at 3 a.m, and I was like, Perry!
I was just like, I can't tell him to stop because it's Perry Saturn. He's going to give me a Death Valley driver and put me in the rings of Saturn. That's going to be it.
But he definitely lived in my house. That was my dream. I dream about Perry Saturn. That's a new hit show on Nick at Night. I dream of Perry.
I dream of Perry.
All right,
I'll make the logo. I'll make the shirt. That's going up live.
Okay. All right. This week's question. Take it away.
All right. This week's question. So being that this is the Mega Mark episode, and this episode is brought to you by Brett Va, we figured that we would also pick one of Brett's questions and just make this an entire episode of Brett's suggestions. So Brett wanted to know if we could go to any wrestling event from the past, what live wrestling show would we pick to go to?
Ooh. Like, do you go with, like, WrestleMania 1? Or, oh, my God.
My answer is very simple, John. I'm going to In Your House Bad Blood.
Ooh.
I want to see the Hell in the Cell match.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good one. Kane's debut.
That's what I want.
Oh, man.
That's the one that I'm going to.
I'm in a toss-up right now because you don't know how badly I wanted to go to WrestleMania 20. And
I'm surprised you're not like, I'm going to see Sting.
I've seen Sting so many times, though.
No, but like you want to go back and see like Surfer Sting. You want to go to a WCW show and see him drop from the rafters or...
Oh, yeah, when I saw him,
when I saw
WCW, he wasn't there. Yeah, like Starrcade 97 or
Yeah.
something. No, I mean, I'm a toss-up between WrestleMania 20 because I couldn't go, and it was such like a big deal to me that I was like in the garden and like, I wanted to see it, or Mick Foley winning the title.
Oh, that's another good one.
Title win.
That's another good one.
I'm going to go with WrestleMania 20, though, because I got tickets to Road to WrestleMania 20. You got to see the big main event of Kane versus Goldberg.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I'm going WrestleMania 20. But as usual, we now throw it to you, the fans. If you could go to any wrestling event and relive it, which would you go to? Are you ready to take this plunge into one of the most, I think, unique and maybe underrated games we've ever played here on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this one. Let's do that hashtag deep dive.
Are you sick of drinking the same old boring coffee with the same old boring flavors? Well, Marks, it's time for you to check out Bones Coffee Company. Bones Coffee isn't just a drink that wakes you up in the morning. It's a full flavor experience. Small batch roasts that are made to order so that every order is guaranteed to be fresh. Unbelievable, all-natural flavors in every single bag. Some of our favorites are blueberry, paradise pie, and chocolate raspberry.
But if you're not into the flavored coffees, they've got their single origin series featuring coffee beans from the greatest coffee growing regions in the world. Visit GameMarksPod.com/coffee to place your order and try the world's freshest small batch coffee. All right, John. King of Colosseum, released December 19th, 2002 for the PlayStation 2, developed by Spike Chunsoft, published by Spike Chunsoft, and this is an interesting one. So there's King of Colosseum Red, which features wrestlers from New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, and Hybrid Wrestling Pancrase. Now, there's also a green version.
Yeah, we're going to get to that later. I got some info on that green version.
Okay, so in this game, you have several modes. You have trial mode, which is just your single player mode. You have your one night match, which is your exhibition, or you have your one-on-one, your tag team, and your handicap match for a 2-on-1. You have title match, where you defend any of the titles that you've earned.
That's literally like a who's who of champions also. Like there's every single belt from like all the IWGP belts, all the All Japan belts, all the Pancrase belts, everything. Everything is in here.
This roster is deceivingly large. If you don't know to hit left and right on the selecting your wrestler, you will miss a lot of them. But look at this as like a Fire Pro-esque kind of roster. The roster is split up into each promotion, and that's how you select your fighter. So it's very, very expensive. We're going to get into the roster in a little bit.
Let me put into perspective also like what's out at the time. So there's WWF Raw, which we played in the archives, WrestleMania X8, which we played in the archives, Road to WrestleMania X8, and WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. Now, those are what came out in 2002. There was also New Japan Pro Wrestling Tokan Retsuden Advanced for the Game Boy Advance.
Damn. I mean, we've played most of those games.
Yeah, if not almost all.
Yeah, so, pretty good idea of what else is out there at the time. Now, there are other modes here. So there's series mode, where you can relive special events in Japanese wrestling. There's the Battle Royal, which is a 4-way elimination. There's a 5x5 elimination. You have edit mode, and on the title screen, title match is blurred at the start. Now, this is only unlocked by beating the Trial Road. And as you win the titles in Trial Road, they become unlockable in the title match mode. So Trial Mode is really the bread and butter of this whole game. It is the main season mode of the game. It has some RPG-like elements to it, it's really the most important part of the game because it is the way to unlock all of the secret characters of the game. Now, within Trial Road is an exchange menu where you can get we'll say like special power-ups that help you in your match. So now whenever you exit Trial Road, you see a progression of the things that you've unlocked so far. So you have 5 pages, and that's the roster page, title page, your edit points, and your costumes.
So this is pretty much, like you said, the bread and butter here, because you're not only getting, say you want someone else for your roster or a different outfit. The edit points are huge. You can go back. You could level up the wrestlers that you play against as well. So if, say, you're, I don't know, Great Muta, and you get all those edit points, you could literally make him a 99 overall if you want. Which is
cool, because I don't think that you really got the ability to do that. Like, you could bump up people a little bit, but I don't think in any of the WWE games you're bumping up,
No.
Shelton Benjamin from a 75 to a 99.
That's like Warzone and Attitude.
Yeah,
you're talking.
But this is kind of cool because this game has true ring announcers and colors from actual New Japan and All Japan. So
imagine that, 2 companies working together. Isn't that nice?
I know, it's wild. So you have your New Japan announcer Tanaka, you have All Japan announcer Kahara, and you have color commentary from Giant Baba and Kazuyo Yamazaki.
Oh boy, now the big part. It's just like any other Spike game like Fire Pro. We have a gigantic roster here.
But don't worry, because I'm going to help you with this one because it's really big. You're not going to do the whole thing by yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you. But before we get into that, let's hear a word from our sponsors. And we're back. George, you want me to start this off here?
All right, kick us off, John.
All right, your New Japan Pro Wrestling roster. You have Tatsumi Fujinami. Tatsumi Fujinami. Kensuke Sasuke. Power Warrior. Yuji Nagata. Manubo Nakanishi. Shiro Koshinaka. Takashi Iizuka. Yutaka Yoshi. Osama Nishimura. Junji Harada. Kengo Komura. Super Strong Machine. Shinya Makabe, Kenzo Suzuki, I'm sorry, you have to say it, Kenzo Suzuki, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Blue Wolf, Super J, Dan Devine, Kakua Yamazaki, Osamu Kido, Saiji Sakaguchi, Masa Saito, Kuniaki Kobayashi, and Black Cat. That one was easy.
All right, now your New Japan Pro Wrestling Juniors. You have 2 versions of Jushin Thunder Liger, El Samurai, Minoru Tanaka, Masayuki Naruse, Masahito Kakihara, Wataru Inoue, Katsuyori Shibata, Katsushi Takemura, Dr. Wagner Jr., and Norio Honagawa. Wow. That was, for some reason, got me real tongue-tied. Norio Honaga.
All right, now Team 2000, we have a run in here, and Mrs. Clash is going to read it.
Okay. Masashiro Kono.
Sure.
Great.
Hiroyoshi Tenzin. Hiro Saito. Tatsunushi Goto. Scott Norton. There we go. Giant Silva. Giant Singh.
Great Khali!
Love it. Way to go. What a run-in.
That was tough.
Now you see what I go through.
Felt like a substitute teacher.
All right. Team 2000 Juniors. Koji Kanemoto, Akira, Jado, Gedo, Black Tiger 3, and Gokudo.
All Japan Pro Wrestling, Giant Baba, Kaijimoto, Great Muda, Kokushi Muso, Toshiaki Kawada, Satoshi Kojima, The Great Koji, Taiyo Kia, Hiroshi Hase, Mitsuya Nagai, Hideki Hasaka, Shigeo Okamoro, Tomoyaki Hanma, Kazushi Miyamoto, Stan Hansen, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Johnny Smith, I like Johnny Smith, that's a good name to read, Mike Barton, Abdullah the Butcher, George Hines, Mike Rotundo. We didn't notice him in the game.
Wait, there's another wrestler? So I had this thought. I'm just going to interrupt and throw this in right now. Random wrestling figure collection that I wanted to make, but I don't think there's enough. I was like, I'm just going to get all the wrestling Georges. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get...
Oh, there you go, George Hines.
I was like, George Animal Steel. And I need like Gorgeous George.
Girl, Gorgeous George.
I would say both versions of Gorgeous George. Then there's like George South. And then I got nothing else. But apparently George Hines.
And then you have Jim Steele and Kamala 2.
All right, so you're All Japan Pro Wrestling Juniors. Masanobu Fuchi, Kendo Kashin, Tokimitsu Ishisawa, Kaz Hayashi with 2 versions, and Jimmy Yang. Oh, is that Jimmy Wang Yang?
Jimmy Wang Yang. Pro Wrestling War. Ganeshiro Tenryu, Arashi, Nobutaka Araya, Nobukazu Harai.
All right, Hybrid Wrestling Pancrase. Masakatsu Funaki with 2 versions, Yuki Kondo, Yoshiki Takahashi, Minoru Suzuki, Kuma Kunioku, Osami Shibuya, Ikuhisha Minawa,
Propecia?
Kengo, and Kai Yamamiya with 2 versions.
Grabaka, we have Senai Kikuto, Akihiro Gono, and Yuki Sasuke.
U-File Camp is Kyoshi Tamura with 2 versions.
And now we have Freelance with Riki Choshu, Tadao Yasuda, Michiyoshi Ohara, and Don Fry. We did it!
Oh, man. But we're not done yet because there's also a bunch of arenas that I'm going to take us through right now. So your arenas for this game are the Tokyo Dome, the Tokyo Dome NJ style, Sumo Hall, Korakuen Hall, Budokan Hall, All Japan style, Yoyogi Gymnasium, Kawasaki Stadium, and Differ Ariake Gym. Okay, so now that the difficult reading's out of the way, John, let's talk about how this game actually looks and how this game actually plays. Because I'm going to go out and just say it fits right in with the style of everything else that's out at the time. You know, there's no graphics that stand out and you're like, wow, this looks really bad. If you compare it to everything else that's out at the time, it looks pretty good. Control-wise, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, targeting is very reminiscent of last week's game, actually.
That's so wrong.
You focus on your character, but it's kind of free roam. So like you don't move in direction related to your character and like the targeting, you just move.
Which was also hard to hit, like, you know, 3-point stance, tackle, and all, like your running moves, because you're not just running, you're pretty much running on an axis. You're not running like freely towards your guy. Like you're not going to target them.
Yeah, it was different. But you know, couple matches, we played through the trial road, and you know,
a lot of fun.
After a couple matches, you kind of get the experience down, and you know how you have to play the game. So by the time we got together and played the our Clash at the Feast for this week, we got a pretty good understanding, and the matches were kind of interesting. But that being said, there's a lot to kind of unpack with this game, mainly just because it feels like a 3D Fire Pro.
It's literally a clone of Fire Pro if you were to put like a SmackDown skin on it.
It's really, I don't want to say jarring, because I feel like jarring is a bad thing, but like it's a pleasant surprise to have this high quality style of graphics. You know, it's early 2000s, so the bar is higher than it is, but it's nowhere near what you're expecting in 2021. But man, this game feels great. It looks great.
It's like the little things too, like the ring.
Yeah, like presentation with the entrances. Let's talk about those entrances.
Oh yeah, the New Japan games are like known for their good entrances. Think about All-Star Pro Wrestling. All-Star Pro Wrestling, is that what?
All-Star Pro Wrestling.
All-Star Pro Wrestling, how beautiful those were, and now this is like a legit like title.
Oh yeah, and this, I mean, it nails it. There's pyro, the musics are accurate. Obviously, we had a Liger match, and the presentation is perfect. The only thing I will say, they did some of these guys in this game a little dirty, because I don't think Liger has ever looked as thick as he is in this game. He is a big boy.
He's not a Super Junior in this game, huh?
No, he looks like he
Quarantine
could be...
Liger.
Yeah, but it's 2001.
Yeah, I know. But Quarantine Liger. He's a little, yeah.
But moveset wise, great. Liger bomb. You got that forward roll. Was it not Savate kick? What the hell is it called? There's that forward roll, like sumo kick.
Modern people know it as like the low key kick.
Yeah.
So what was weird to me, we did a match which was Giant Singh. Is that what his name was? Great Khali, basically against Scott Norton. And they were the same size.
Yeah, and like Great Khali is, 7 foot, a little bit over 7 feet, and he's just a little bit taller than Scott Norton in this game. And like, not saying that Scott Norton's a small guy, because he's not, but Great Khali is the biggest of boys, and
probably the biggest person in this game, without saying. I mean, maybe Giant Baba. I'm not sure.
I would say,
but yeah, little weird, but. Pretty much what you said. This is Fire Pro, even down to the grapples, which took us a while to figure out, because you have to actually hold R and then choose your button for the grapple. And they're very easily reversed if you don't get the timing down, and if you don't start with, say, like the weak grapple and move on. Also shades of last week's game, also shades of Fire Pro, also shades of Retromania.
Yeah, this is early on in the matches when, you're used to just your spamming of moves against a computer. Your first match with an actual person who's playing the game, kind of sends you for a loop because it was just reverse city for me and John. John would go to do a move, I'd reverse it. I would go do a move, John would reverse it. And it was just back and forth. And
now here's something we didn't really use, and it's the power balls underneath your name.
Yeah.
Now, you start with 4 of these, and when you use the special move, which could be a combo of like square and X or X and circle, that's when you use the bigger move. Could be your finisher, could be a submission hold, could be anything, but these don't come back. You don't regain these. So while you do regain stamina like Fire Pro, where you hold L1 and you kind of do your little breathing, like your huff and puff, and you get your stamina back, if you use all 4 finishers in the start of the game, they're not coming back.
You're ending the match with like a clothesline or something.
Which we did too.
Yes. I mean, hotline, man, you got to hit it.
Yeah, so there's a little strategy there too.
Which is interesting. And it forces you to maybe play outside your comfort zone, where if you're used to just like move spamming in other games where, you know, SmackDown.
Yeah, that's how you win most of them.
In SmackDown, you just, listen, here, all right? I'm not going to have you take that tone with me. I'm sitting real close to you.
You're in my house.
But yeah, you know, compared this to the WWE game that's out at the time, you know, every couple of moves, do bigger moves, get more stamina, get to store some finishers, and then, you know, once your entire pool is full there, you know, just keep spamming them left and right. This game, you got to be a little more selective, a little more strategic with how you're doing it. But listen, we got to talk about this artwork mainly for 2 reasons. 1, there's a lot happening on this front cover, and 2, I don't know how the hell I'm going to recreate it for this week. I'm sure you're listening to this episode right now. I figured out a way to make it work, but as we're recording this episode, I'm going to try to figure out how to make this not just the logo on a black and red background.
And if it is a logo on just a black and red background, blame George.
I'm saying you did at George Feis on all forms of social media.
But this one, it's pretty simple because it's just the roster in their video game form. It's not their real life wrestling form, and just the King of Colosseum logo.
Yeah.
And there's no text other than really the logo, but that's when we get to the back where it also has the wrestlers, it has screenshots, and yeah, I mean, that's as far as we're going to get because we actually don't know what any of this says. It's not in English at all. It's all Japanese, but it does give you a good perspective into like the wrestler create mode and just the wrestler select screen, as well as both wrestling matches and more of like the MMA style of this game.
I mean, listen, we say all the time on this podcast that if you look at a wrestling cover and it looks like it's a wrestling game, then they've done their job. And man, that's exactly what this looks like.
Very simple though, really simplistic. And I'm looking at actually this is the cover of red. We're looking at the cover of green, and they both go side by side if you were to put both games together, and they kind of form one giant image, which is kind of cool. And again, we're going to get into green a little bit later.
Give me that poster.
Yeah, right? I'm sure there was posters of that.
But, you know, I'm looking at this now, and I think the artwork for this week's episode might be the title screen, because the title screen is cool
there
as
you
shit.
Go. There's something.
All right, but listen, talk about the front cover, we talk about the back cover, we went through this enormous roster, but John, did you know? Did you know all the characters in King of Colosseum Red can be imported into the sequel, King of Colosseum Green, to combine both rosters?
Did you know King of Colosseum Green came out very soon after on March 6, 2003, and King of Colosseum 2 came out in 2004 for the PlayStation 2 as well, also by Spike.
Did you know this game starts at about $11 on eBay and goes all the way up to about $30? You can also buy red and green together for $40.
It's overall not that expensive. Maybe it just hasn't hit that year yet where people are clamoring for this.
They say, Smart Mark loves to say on the Major Pod, 30 years.
30 years. We got a couple more.
We've got some time.
But, yeah, cool Pokemon-like feature of this where these 2 games almost identical came out back-to-back, which we'll cover green in the future, and you can import the roster into one another. Which is so cool. You know how big this roster is? We were saying during Clash at the Feast, because you were wondering if Kenta Kobashi's in this. He's in green, as well as Kenta They're both in green.
I wanted to play as Kenta Kobashi so I could hit you with the burning hammer.
Yeah, well, I wanted to hit you with the GTS, but we'll have to wait for green for that.
Well, there's your Clash at the Feast best of 3 for green.
Yeah. But pretty much I was reading up on how to do this in the home screen of this game and green. As long as you have save data of red on the same memory card as green, you're able to import the entire roster into that game as well. So we were talking about how massive this roster was. It gets even bigger. It's insane.
But John, listen, usually this is the part where I tell you that I'm stressed and need you to have some R&R, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you. We had a pretty big lunch today. And
you need a belly rub.
Georgie Bear's a little full and needs to take a little nap.
All right.
So why don't you read me through why...
All right, I'll go get you some Pepsid.
Yeah.
All right, so this game is not rated on Metacritic, IGN, or GameSpot. Now, David Smith at IGN did write a few articles on this game, and he said, for those who've been heavily into Fire Pro series, King of Colosseum could turn out to be a worthy import. He also made some notes about the grappling system and also just being an alternative from the SmackDown games if you wanted like a breath of fresh air, something different. Which honestly, up until this point, the SmackDown games were all pretty much on point. So it's kind of cool to have another game that's this decent and a completely different roster. Now, GameSpot user rating, our go-to when we don't have many ratings, gives this an overall 7.4, which is pretty good. Now, that's 4 out of 5 stars. That's out of 26 ratings. The difficulty is a 3 out of 5, which I could agree with. And total hours played goes over 70 hours, which is the full capacity. That's 5 out of 5 in that category. I could definitely see this being a long one that you go back and play more of, especially with the trial road and just all the features you have in this game. Just checking out the roster. I mean, you go in, you just want to play through some singles matches. The roster is the way to go. But that was all the ratings we had for this game, but now it's time for the more important ratings. Because right now, it's time to rate the game.
The game!
All right, Johnny Clash. I was considering doing a 3-2-1 this week, but I feel like we need to talk about this game.
Ooh, okay.
Give a little reasoning behind our rating. So, King of Colosseum Red for the PlayStation 2.
Fire Red.
Leaf Green next time. Will you play it forever? Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
Okay, so going into this, I didn't really know much about this game, and when you search King of Colosseum, if you don't put red next to it, most likely what you're getting is King of Colosseum 2 screenshots. So I was hyped. I was like, this game looks so good. I'm ready for this game. Like Samoa Joe's in there. You got, all the guys you're used to. Cool cover with guys in their suits on. And then you look at red and you're like, okay, it looks a little less, obviously, because it's a few years earlier. And then you figure out what green is and you're like, wow, wait, hang on. This is like a whole new world that you don't know about. We finally played the game. Was it what I expected? I expected a little more maybe SmackDown-y play. Maybe more fluid, more smooth. But overall, between the Trial Road, which is very similar to the Fire Pro Championship modes and Story Mode, whatever it's called, Glory Road.
Trial Road?
No, the one from Fire Pro.
Oh, Fire Pro, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to play it forever.
Woo! All right.
Just a different dimension, a different dynamic that you're not used to, but it's actually good.
Yeah.
And George, what about you? Play it forever or future endeavor?
So, very similar to what you just said. We didn't have a ton of experience or knowledge about this game prior to going into it. And like I said at the top of the episode, I was pleasantly surprised with just the ins and outs of this game. Yeah, there's a bit of a learning curve because of how it looks. You think it's going to play like a SmackDown game. But, I am known for liking the Fire Pro series, and this was a refreshing...
Yeah, me too.
It was a refreshing take on that game style, and I definitely will be going back and playing this. And hey, you know what? I may even end up picking this up on eBay, and maybe I'll spend the $40 and I'll get red and green, and then I'll have Fire Red and Leaf Green of the wrestling games. But with that said, I will be playing it forever.
All right, cool. We both another double play for usually
double piff.
We haven't been too far off from each other in a while. So
I mean, I feel like we're now at a point where we can even probably guess what each other are going to say, just because now we know, and obviously as the podcast has progressed, we talk a lot more about the games while we're playing it. Whereas like, I feel like in the first, like the early years, we kind of kept all that in and then we just like unloaded on the podcast episode, where now we're just like, okay, how did you do that? I'm trying to figure it out too, but what button did you hit to do that? Where like in the beginning, it was just like, no, I'm not going to talk to John when we do this. I'm going to figure this out on my own. And if he can't, then whatever.
actually, what's funny is I can't find it right now, but someone actually tweeted us saying they just got to the episode where I was completely pooping on Fire Pro, and they can't wait to see if that progresses once we get to Fire Pro World.
Oh man, I want to make a how it started, how it's going.
Yeah, that guy will be pleasantly surprised once he gets to like Super Fire Pro or whatever one it was.
I feel like we did so many Fire Pro games in a row. There was no way that you were going to continue to not like it. And then I feel like I tortured you so much by playing them that I haven't picked a Fire Pro game, like a Fire Pro title in a while. I didn't know. Yeah, today going into this, that Brett had picked a Fire Pro title pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah, but still same but different.
Yes.
But let's talk about our weekly tournament, Clash at the Feast.
Now, the way that this month shapes up, this could go one of two ways. So we have a contingency plan if I win and we go, was it 6-3?
Yeah.
So if we go 6-3, that's it. I win.
What is 6-3 right? No, if you go 7-3.
Oh, if I go,
put you over half.
If I go 7-3, there's no chance for you. You've got no chance in hell. But there is a contingency. If that does happen, and I think this may just be how it goes for the rest of Clash at the Feast, we're going to break it up into seasons. Whereas, rather than winning the year, you win a season and a season counts as a point, and then, we start over again. And if I end up going 7-3, then season 2 starts and then goes back to 0-0, and John has a chance of getting the point, which is not going to happen.
All right. Enough. But if you want to watch this week's Clash at the Feast, head on over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast, where we go head to head in King of Colosseum Red. But last week we played Simpsons Wrestling. We talked about it at the top of the hour. George was Professor Frink. Mm-hmm. I was the OP groundskeeper Willie.
You say OP,
but yeah, well, I mean, no one really is in that game. Yeah, they are already 2 out of 3 falls, so we just did one match because we didn't want to torture ourselves any more than already playing that game.
That's potentially way more Simpsons Wrestling than I need to play.
Yeah, and George wins, and you know what? It's all yours.
Yeah, so that means we're putting another check in the column there. It's
getting close.
Time.
It could all end.
But listen, right now, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Before I tell you what we're playing next week, can you play my music right now? All right, so let's talk about this.
Okay.
So we played SmackDown 1.
Yep.
We played SmackDown 2.
Yep.
We played Here Comes the Pain.
Yep.
With friend of the show, Bear Bronson, and Max Caster. You know what's missing? There's 2 games that are missing in there.
Yeah, there are.
And we're going to play one of them next week.
Which one?
Next week on the podcast, George Feis, Johnny Clash are playing WWF SmackDown. Just bring it.
Now, which game does this come after?
So
it doesn't matter which game it comes after. You should see his face right now.
I should have seen that coming. I know better than
that. All right, I'm ready.
But wait, so here's the thing. So in Japan, and I've talked about this in the Major Pod group, SmackDown Just Bring It is a part of the Exciting Pro Wrestling series and is known as Exciting Pro Wrestling 3. So, I don't think we'll have to do some research, but to my knowledge, there is not actually a difference in the roster. The game is the same. But any differences that we can find in our research between the two games, we will be touching on next week, because I'm pretty sure that the base game is the same. They just have it up as a part of a different series in Japan. But that's it. That's what we're going to play next week. SmackDown, just bring it.
All right. With that, I don't know. I'd say take it home, but we're already in my house. I don't know.
I'll say
Time for you to beat traffic?
there's no way. I'm in traffic now.
All right. Take us home.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks Podcast. Please check out our merchandise at GameMarksPod.com/shop and join us on Patreon. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod. It is the best way besides listening to support the podcast, and be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe wherever great podcasts can be found. Hey, John, thank you very much for opening your house to me on this fine, fine day.
Hey, anytime, man.
It was a pleasure to record in person. I'm probably not going to eat for the rest of the day because that lunch was massive. But yeah, everybody, wear your masks, social distance, wash your hands, get your vaccine if you can. Johnny Clash, say goodbye.
Game over. Marks.
Yes, I...
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.
Hi everyone, this is David C. Anderson, the commissioner of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, and I'm inviting you to check out my brand new podcast, Chat 'em Up. Each week I bring an infotaining look at all of the recent happenings, along with stories, conversations with guests, and more. The podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, or wherever fine podcasts are found. New episodes of Chat 'em Up drop every Monday. Make sure you're following the podcast across social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Chat 'em Up Podcast. I'll chat with you soon.